We have some really interesting announcements from Microsoft Windows 10 event today, and they are actually mostly regarding virtual reality. Now, I was quite surprised by this, as to be honest, I kind of thought that with the whole HoloLens thing that Microsoft wouldn't directly be doing VR other than to maybe work with the Oculus, but we have several third-party headsets being announced that are, of course, working in partnership with Microsoft, and they are from HP, Dell, Lenovo, Asus, and Acer. And it's actually going to be the cheapest headset on the market, assuming you ignore the mobile variations, as it will be $299. And I know that's still a lot of money, but when you compare it to, say, the Vive or the Oculus, it's still pretty damn cheap in virtual reality standards. And apparently it will be the first to ship, or they will rather, with, quote, inside-out 6 degrees of freedom sensors. Now, what does that actually mean in English? It means there won't be any need for cameras or laser tracking systems. Now, while there wasn't much information actually given about these headsets, they do seem to use a similar technology to the Oculus's Santa Cruz prototype. And in terms of its visual appearance of the headset, it's fairly similar to the PSVR. You've got a sort of dock thing you kind of lean it on, and a headband with a sort of visor section on the front. Now, the lack of laser tracking in cameras actually means something really interesting, that there's going to be no need for a separate room, which is quite good because, of course, as well as the price, one of the main concerns about virtual reality for a lot of people is the fact that you need another room, or just a big room, to actually make it work. And obviously, if you live in a small flat, or you have a house just full of stuff because you have a large family or whatever, it's just not possible to make that happen. So obviously with this, you wouldn't necessarily need that. There might still be some space requirements, but I doubt they're going to be as quite restrictive as, say, the Vive, for example. Now, what's important to keep in mind is that no games were shown off with these virtual reality headsets. Now, I'll be surprised if no games do come out with them for them to. Also, I'll be surprised if games don't come out for them. Words. But just want to keep that in mind, that no games were actually shown. They show several creative applications for it, and sort of just handy applications for them. For example, you can use the virtual reality headset to, say for example, use HoloTour, a 360-degree view of landscapes accessible with, again, the VR headset. So you could, walk around with that and a few other bits. And there's also applications for, say, again, creative applications. For example, you could use the headset to create, share and scan and print in 3D. You can see an image created in Paint 3D and viewed in a virtual world. And again, you've got the HoloTour. So it had some interesting applications shown on it, but nothing strictly gaming related. Now, in this conference, they did also bring out the HoloLens, of course, and they spent most of the portion looking at what the HoloLens could actually do in its day-to-day operations. And again, it showed Microsoft Paint and how it allowed for 3D drawing, and even how the HoloLens can help with online shopping. For example, a Microsoft employee was able to use the device to see what a sofa would look like in his house without actually buying it for a projected hologram, which is an interesting idea, a very specific idea, of course, but interesting nonetheless. So, while this may not strictly be for gaming, we just don't know. I'll be, again, very surprised if we don't see games come out for it. And if we do, this would actually be the entry-level VR. Obviously, the PlayStation VR is still pretty entry-level, but this would actually be kind of below that. $300, no space requirements or anything. And obviously, in theory, you'd have the whole Windows 10 integration and everything else. Maybe some mixed reality stuff as well. It could be really, really interesting. Now, of course, while this isn't strictly Microsoft developed, it is third party, they are working with them. So they're kind of entering the virtual reality game as well as bringing out the HoloLens, which of course is augmented reality. Quite the interesting move from Microsoft, and I must say, I did not see it coming. So, it's going to be an interesting time for VR. The competition is definitely getting crowded, let's say that way. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.